The world celebrates the Cuban victory after the island nation was removed from the U.S. list of state sponsors of terrorism, while they keep on calling for an end to coercive measures against the Caribbean country. Israeli genocidal troops escalate attacks on Gaza during ceasefire negotiations and hostage exchange between Israel and Hamas. And the government of China condemns U.S. sanctions against more than 30 national companies. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos, and from the teleSUR studios in Caracas, Venezuela, we begin with the news. And we now begin with the information. The world celebrates the Cuban victory after the island nation was removed from the U.S. list of state sponsors of terrorism, while they keep on calling for an end to all coercive measures against the Caribbean country. The measure was announced by the U.S. government and was welcomed by nations such as Venezuela, Colombia, and Bolivia, as well as by representatives of the Cuban solidarity movements. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro stressed the need to lift the economic, financial, and commercial blockade that has affected Cuban society for more than 60 years. For his part, Bolivian President Luis Arce also praised the decision and reaffirmed that justice had been done after the unilateral and notorious listing in 2021. Organizations such as the National Network on Cuba and also the ALBA TCP welcomed the news and highlighted the global solidarity that led to this result. And we now go to Haiti, as the country is facing one of the most serious displacement crises in its recent history. According to the International Organization for Migration, more than 1 million people left their homes in 2024. The United Nations identifies the violence imposed by criminal groups as the root cause. Port-au-Prince, the capital of the country, is one of the cities most affected by the phenomenon, given that over 80% of the city is controlled by the coalition of criminal groups living together. According to Kennedy Okoth, the spokesperson for the IOM, the numbers will have tripled when compared to 2023, especially in the capital, where displacement has increased by 87%.
In December 2023, we did record around 315,000 people who were displaced from the violence. 1 year since then, we have seen the number tripled to over 1 million people who have now been displaced because of gang violence in Haiti. This is a really troubling number, and it represents the security situation that most Haitians are currently facing.
The Anti-Fascist International Guatemala chapter repudiated the visit of the Venezuelan fugitive from justice, Edmundo González, to the country, demanding that the government of Bernardo Arévalo cease its support of the impositions of imperialism against Venezuela.
The
Anti-Fascist International Guatemala chapter, in the name of the will towards peace that characterizes the noble people of Guatemala, expresses its most energetic rejection of the arrival of Edmundo González Urrutia to our national territory. This person represents death, terrorism, and imperialist interference against the sovereignty of the brotherly people of Venezuela. His presence in our country is a direct attack on the values of peace, justice, and solidarity that guide our anti-fascist struggle in the defense of the peoples of Latin America. As Guatemalans committed to peace, we demand that Bernardo Arévalo and his government stop lending themselves to the impositions of North American imperialism that manifest their support for this person and their attacks against the sovereign will of the Venezuelan people who elected Nicolás Maduro as their president.
Likewise, the Anti-Fascist International Guatemala chapter also repudiated the aggressions to the Venezuelan diplomatic headquarters, which threaten its national sovereignty.
We repudiate the fascist and interfering actions that some Venezuelan embassies have suffered, thus attacking its sovereignty. We call on governments not to allow actions against Venezuelan goods and territory located in other countries. We express our commitment to defend and resist together with the Venezuelan people in our struggle against fascism. Down with fascism, down with fascism, down with fascism.
Now we have a short break coming up, but first, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. We continue with the information. Salvadoran President Nayib Bukele defended the reactivation of metallic mining on the grounds that if rivers get polluted due to his project, it is because they were clean. For its negative consequences, the Salvadoran legislation had banned the practice that Bukele is now willing to reactivate. The president categorically assured that mining is not linked to the river's pollution, but showed no scientific evidence of his criteria. In contrast, studies endorsed by the United Nations have unfolded that 90% of industrial extractive operations use cyanide. That is why experts have asked the executive and the legislature to disregard this initiative.
What I think is that in a country as dirty as ours, because no one can let me lie, our country is dirty. It is dirty due to the garbage. It is dirty due to leachates. It is dirty due to sewage and grey water. It is dirty due to the lack of water treatment. It is dirty due to the bad culture we have of throwing garbage away. We have seen how entire factories throw their dyes and raw materials into rivers. We see how hospital waste falls into rivers. There are trails that kill cows and throw their blood directly into rivers and streams. Suddenly the river turns red, and that is blood or ink from the textile factories.
And precisely in response to President Bukele's initiative, which the parliament approved rapidly as his party represents the majority, the Mesoamerican Ecclesial Ecological Network reminded him that he is disregarding the will of the people.
We regret the approval of the law that allows mining exploitation in our country. They passed it without listening to the people. It is an action opposed to the will of the people, and it disregards the people's landslide victory reached in 2017, achieving the approval of a law which has banned mining exploitation. The law that safeguards the life and health of our nation.
We go now to Palestine. While the ceasefire negotiations and hostage exchange between Israel and Hamas are experiencing tense hours, genocidal forces from Israel are taking advantage of the situation and launching an escalation of attacks against Gaza. Between night and morning of Wednesday, the occupier has killed 13 Palestinians and left dozens wounded in a brutal attack on the city of Gaza and the refugee camp of Nuseirat. The genocidal attack on the Al-Farabi school in Gaza left 7 people killed and several wounded. The area is housing many displaced families from Hammouk. South of Nuseirat, a house was also bombed, killing 6 people and wounding 7, including the head of nurse at the Al-Adwa hospital.
I saw martyrs in pieces in the morning. They pulled out a martyr from under the rubble. We were all expecting a truce. But as you can see, this is the Israelis' truce. It's a difficult day that adds to the days of suffering of our Palestinian people. This is an innocent family consisting of elderly men, sick and disabled people, children and women. Without any warning, a barrel of explosives ended their lives just like that.
And in this context, the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs warns that the fuel crisis in Gaza continues to threaten the functioning of health facilities in the Strip. The agency said that Gaza's partially functioning hospitals lack fuel reserves and rely on partial deliveries from international agencies to safeguard only the most critical services. The shortages could also put 75 hemodialysis machines out of services across the Strip, threatening the lives of some 700 patients suffering from kidney disease. According to the humanitarian agency, the crisis has been triggered by the Israeli blockade of Gaza and is directly affecting the medical care of at least 2,000 patients in Deir al-Balah, Khan Yunis, and Rafah, and a further 220 in the north of the enclave. And in this context, the UN Humanitarian Agency also warned that water, sanitation, and hygiene facilities in Gaza are at risk of being paralyzed by a lack of fuel. All of this has forced aid groups to make impossible choices, such as having to decide daily between supplying water, pumping sewage, repairing water or sewage leaks, or moving solid waste. This has aggravated the living conditions for displaced people surviving on extremely limited quantities of water for drinking, cooking, and personal hygiene, and exacerbating the spread of pests, infectious diseases, and other public health risks. Gaza is redefining the wounds of war, so say medical surgeons, referring to injuries caused by U.S. bombs sent to Israel and used against women and children in the Strip. Based on field studies, Save the Children claims in its latest report that the occupation and its U.S. partners have mutilated 15 Palestinian children every day during 2024. At least 5,230 children have sustained injuries that require significant rehabilitation support. In addition, Israel prevents them from receiving treatment, so they do not receive prostheses, medicines, or rehabilitation, condemning them early to pathologies typical of people over 80 years of age. And also, the Yemeni army claimed responsibility for the missile attack that hit the Israeli power plant on Wednesday. The Houthis explained that they carried out a military operation with a cruise missile against the enemy power plant of al-Rashash, located in the city of Eilat in the south of the occupied Palestine. They also declared to have sent several drones to several Israeli installations in Tel Aviv, assuring that all of them were successful military operations. The Yemeni government ratified that as long as Israel besieges the Palestinian people, they will maintain their attacks against the Israeli forces. Now we have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English. There you will be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. The government of China condemns U.S. sanctions against more than 30 national companies. The companies belonging to the mining, solar, and textile sectors were included in a list that bans them from exporting to Washington due to suspicions of forced labor. In this regard, the Foreign Ministry spokesperson Hua Jiankun pointed out that the United States' goal is to interfere in the internal affairs and cause damage to China's interests. As a result, China reaffirmed Beijing's commitment to safeguard the legitimate and legal rights and interests of domestic enterprises. And we go now to South Korea as police forces have arrested ousted President Yoon Suk-yeol on Wednesday, making him the first sitting president to be arrested. The president, dismissed for his brief imposition of martial law, was involved in several incidents before he was finally detained at 10:33 a.m. local time on Wednesday. According to information from the Bureau for High-Level Official Corruption Cases, Yoon went to the agency's headquarters for questioning. The president previously recorded a message to the country stating that he would submit to justice to prevent a bloodshed. And we now move on to other topics. In the United States, fires continue to rage in Los Angeles as people try to protect their belongings and homes. Let's take a closer look with our colleague Luis Gutierrez.
This man works as a janitor at this building in Pacific Palisades, the hardest hit by the fires in California. He stayed behind to watch the place and managed to keep it from catching fire using garden hoses and the support of firefighters.
But it actually had spread to the property of the building next door. So I was just putting as much water down onto the bottom as I could and just actually doing a decent job of tamping it down.
For Ridgway, it was a necessary mission.
I felt like there was a duty to at least make sure that was attempted to be saved if possible. And also, you know, even if it didn't come here, if none of this really had happened, there still would have been the possibility of outsiders coming in and looters and stealing and stuff. And so
The collection centers have been crucial for those who have lost their belongings or remain evacuated amidst uncertainty for their homes.
The street I live on, everybody on one side of the street, all their houses are entirely wiped out. And on my side of the street, starting with my house and a few neighbors down, maybe about 4 houses stood up and everybody else lost their homes. And my house is standing, yes, but we don't know what condition it's in. So, yeah, we haven't been able to go back to check. They won't let us.
For firefighters, putting out fires in high winds has become a difficult task.
Some days are harder than others.
How hard?
After the first day, many people that I've known for a long time in base camp barely recognized me. My phone didn't recognize me to turn on, just dirty, tired. But today will be not so bad. Steep, a good hike, but we'll pace ourselves and drink lots of water and be ready for a long haul of work here and then the next fire. But it's January. We're not supposed to be to fires in January.
It's an honor and a privilege to be here, you know, serving the community, paying my debt to society, just giving back to the people, you know, of the community. That's lost a lot.
But returning Los Angeles to their previous state will cost time and resources.
It's going to cost tens of billions of dollars to get Los Angeles back to where it was. So we're going to need Congress to step up to provide funding to get this done. And we're going to get that done, God willing.
Firefighters and local and national authorities will be put to the test as they must navigate the strong winds that are expected.
Luis Gutierrez, teleSUR, Los Angeles, California.
And in this context, the Iranian government reported that the Red Crescent offered to assist the United States fight off the wildfires raging in Los Angeles, but Washington turned it down and asked Iran for money instead. Hossein Koulevand, the head of the Iranian Red Crescent Society, explained that he sent a letter to the director of the U.S. Red Cross to not only express condolences for the victims and their families, but also to help Los Angeles with experts, equipment, and logistics. However, the U.S. counterpart appreciated the bid, but limited himself to requesting financial assistance. And we go now to other topics. Units of the Western Combat Group of the Russian Army liberated 2 important communities in Donetsk on Wednesday. This was announced on Wednesday by the Russian Ministry of Defense. It concerns the communities of Tersi and Neshkuknoy. The Ukrainian troops lost in the final battle at least 600 troops and 3 ammunition depots in the Kharkov region. Moreover, 4 electronic warfare stations were reportedly destroyed, along with severe damage that was caused to 2 mechanized brigades. And this Tuesday, after the diplomatic visit of the Russian Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin to Vietnam, it was announced that Russia will support the country's accession to the BRICS. Also, Russia informed that it is ready to participate in the creation of the nuclear power sector of Vietnam. Alexei Likhangshov, General Director of the Russian state corporation Rosatom, praised Vietnam's decision to return to the Ninh Thuan 1 nuclear power plant project agreed by Moscow in 2010 and rejected by Hanoi in 2015. Russia has also offered energy supplies to the Asian nations, such as oil and liquefied natural gas. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and also on TikTok. For TeleSUR English, my name is Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.